Hi, I'm Dr. Ben Newman. I'm a coronavirus researcher, and I have been for a long time. Let's try to answer your questions. Next question is from Tufty. Hello, welcome back. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ben. We're back again from the Isle of Man. Question for the main man. No, the Isle of Man has got to be the main man. Surely, surely. Yeah. And thank you. Let's see. Given the current situation with a number of variants floating around the world with different characteristics, and a lot of those variants are names that we give, and the name is totally different, but the variants are not particularly different. They're only a little tiny bit different. So it's that I think that's a thing to keep in mind. But let's see. Let's see. What are or should, oh my goodness, the pharma companies be focusing on? Wow. Okay. So this is going to be opinion. It's informed by my scientific experience, but it's opinion. Yeah, yeah. What should other people be doing? Here, I'll give it to you. Let's finish the question. Should we be developing a more potent Delta vaccine, or waiting for a potentially more impactful strain to go out and develop the variant? Yeah, that makes sense. How do they come to the decision as to when to press the button on development of a new vaccine? Yep, good. We can answer that. Or is it a case of incremental tweaking in the labs before rapid mass production? Yeah, so many good questions rolled into one. Wow. Yeah, all right. Let's see. So, what are they doing right now? It looks as though most of the companies are uh, at least Pfizer are looking at vaccinating again with the same vaccine, the original one. So the idea there, it's not completely dumb, it's actually fairly smart. The idea there is the same one that we use in influenza vaccines. So if you look at those year after year after year, you will notice that of the four components in your typical influenza vaccine, there may be only one that changes from one year to the next, and occasionally there may not be a change. Yeah, maybe you'll have a year with two changes. Who's to say? Yeah, the scientists in the labs, and they do tests, and they have very good reasons why. That's who. So let's see. So the idea there is that basically as the virus grows you get this branching out, and it starts out as just one thing. So imagine that's like the wrist here, and then it's going to branch into different variants, and so imagine those are the fingertips. The idea is if you go in and you just try and vaccinate against one fingertip, you may work and you may get a good protection against that fingertip and this fingertip, but you're probably not going to get protection against those three. So you've got to be real sure which variant you're going after, or you've got to start vaccinating against multiple variants like we do with flu. But flu's been in humanity for something like 10,000 years, they estimate, and so flu is a different case. This is a virus that's still very new and very close to the root. So the idea is that if you use an older strain, so basically I think wrist rather than fingers, then you have the strain that goes on to become all these other things. So it's kind of like the average of all the variants, because it's the thing that all the variants came from. And I think that kind of makes sense. And so if you can get protection against that, you get pretty good protection against all the fingertips. And so that's what they're trying to do. That's why they're going back in with the same original vaccine. That, and it takes a while to go through all the tests and get a variant vaccine approved. And I think that there may have been companies that were working on like an Alpha UK or South Africa variant vaccine. And Alpha is on the way out. It is getting pinched pretty heavily. It went from about half of all the cases in the world to now it's down to something like a quarter, and fallen fast. It's a Delta world out there. But that's only been the case for the last couple of months. And the viruses come and go faster than you can actually make and get approved a vaccine. And I don't know that we want to necessarily shorten the vaccine process. There are ways you could streamline some parts of it. You could say, we've got a good vaccine, we're making a tiny tweak, so we don't have to go through the original phase 1 and 2 tests, but we just have to do a phase 3. But a phase 3 takes something like 3 months if you have an area with a lot of infection happening. And there was a while there where there were not many cases in Europe and America. They're coming back up nicely now. But it was just really hard to do those experiments. You'd have to go into another country, and that's always a little weird that you're testing out this new thing on somebody else. And just, you can do it with the best of intentions, but it's going to feel a little bit bad. Like, why don't you give this to your kids? Yeah, why are you using mine? You know, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's tough. And you've got to have a certain number of infections in the controlled group, and then to be able to show that you've lowered it by a certain amount in the vaccinated group or revaccinated. And it takes a while. It takes a while to build up enough data. So 3 months might be a very optimistic pie in the sky version. It may be more like 6 months to actually do the proper clinical trial. So, all right, but that's only the first part of the answer. There's so much more. We'll condense it though. Let's see. So that's why I would go for the strategy that they're going for now, and it makes sense. How do they know when to abandon that strategy and try something else? The answer is when you get breakthrough. When you get not occasional people that are vaccinated and get infected anyway, but you start getting lots of people. And when that vaccine protection is going to drop below a certain number. Now, the number is variable. It's something that people pick out. We may decide that it's 50%. I think most places around the world are only approving vaccines if they can show at least 50% protection. And some, like the mRNA vaccines, are way higher than that. They're up in the 90s. Some of those even against the variants. So, but yeah, that's how you do it with numbers. And then the problem is it takes a while to go through all those steps to come up with the new version of the vaccine that you're going to use. Do the tests for it. Find out, is it still expressed nicely? Because you have to make a lot of that protein in order for the vaccine to work. Does it make good antibodies in a mouse? Does it make good antibodies in a healthy person that's never been infected? You know, does it cause any weird stuff to happen because it's a slight variant? But you may be able to. We shortcut some of those steps with the flu vaccine because it's been tried enough times that, yeah, it's okay. But the COVID vaccines are still all under emergency use authorization. So the rules are possibly going to be a little bit different. It's kind of a matter of what you can convince the regulatory body in your part of the world is the right thing to do. Yeah, so there. That's a lot of stuff. And that's basically how it's done. And you need a lot of lead time. For the flu vaccine, they make the decision, I think it is something like 9 months ahead of the coming flu season. They have committed to a strain. And there was 1 year where they committed to a strain and they got an early mutation in the virus as they were growing it up to be the vaccine. And with this mutation, it ended up that the vaccine did not protect everybody as well. So, that led to, I believe it was an H3N2 influenza outbreak, at least in the people that were vaccinated by this. But yeah, it's a long process and a slow process, and it's something that could be done at least a little bit faster, but with very high sort of cost and resources. And the question always is who's going to pay for it. And thankfully, a lot of governments are responsible and are kicking into things like the WHO, which is not necessarily doing this, but kind of guiding the process. So there you go. That's at least as much as I know. There's plenty more out there that you can read about this, but that's my understanding of the situation. And thanks for asking. Those are all really good questions. All right, so all the best to you, and this has been Ask Dr. Ben.